I had to really earn my place there, and it took me years to earn my place there and to earn things that are routinely given, and I say this with respect, but routinely given to the men that I worked with.
Kelly Ripa once had everything Hollywood dreams of: fame, television power, and a $20 million annual salary. But right at the peak of it all, she began thinking about walking away from it all. Not because of the money, not because of a scandal, but because of a handwritten letter from a late friend, something she had kept hidden for 4 years. And when she finally opened it, Kelly realized that fame no longer held the same meaning. What pushed the woman who had been the face of Live for a quarter of a century to say 5 words that left viewers in stunned silence on live television? The story doesn't begin in a studio, but with the foundational values that made Kelly Ripa who she is. The small town that shaped Kelly Ripa. Kelly Maria Ripa was born on October 2, 1970, in Stratford, New Jersey, a small working-class town in Camden County. Nothing about the place seemed extraordinary, but it shaped the values that would follow her for the rest of her life. Her father, Joseph Ripa, worked constantly. He studied at Rutgers University, drove a bus for New Jersey Transit, and led the local labor union. Later, he entered public service and became Camden County Freeholder Director and County Clerk. Her mother, Esther, ran the home with discipline, faith, and quiet expectations. Kelly grew up Catholic, in a Polish and Italian-American family where hard work was not optional. She also had an older sister, Linda, someone she deeply admired. At the time, that seemed like a simple family detail. Years later, it would become part of one of the most painful chapters of Kelly's life. At Camden Catholic High School, Kelly was smart, outspoken, energetic, and not always consistent in class. After graduating in 1988, she studied psychology and theater at Camden County College and Rutgers. But she never finished college. At 19, an opportunity changed everything, and Kelly had no idea that something her mother said every day when she came home from school would one day become the most famous catchphrase of her television career. The 3 words, Kelly Ripa hid for 25 years. For 25 years, every morning on ABC, millions of Americans heard Kelly Ripa open the show with the same 3 words, "Come on in." Most viewers never thought twice about it. They assumed it was just a simple line from a producer, something that had stayed in the show since 2001. But in 2024, Kelly revealed the truth. The line came from her mother, Esther. When Kelly was a child in Stratford, New Jersey, Esther would say those words every afternoon as Kelly walked through the door after school. So when Kelly joined ABC in 2001, she quietly carried that memory with her. She used the phrase on air every morning for more than 5,000 shows. Her mother never knew. When Esther finally learned the truth, she broke down. She realized Kelly had carried a piece of her into every broadcast. For Kelly, those 3 simple words did more than open a show. They made a national television studio feel like home. The night that changed, Kelly Ripa forever. Everything changed for Kelly Ripa in 1990 when she was just 19 years old. She auditioned for the ABC soap opera All My Children and landed the role of Haley Vaughn, the troubled daughter of the powerful Adam Chandler. Her first episode aired on April 23, 1990. Her father worried the entertainment industry was unstable. Her mother feared New York would overwhelm her daughter. Kelly went anyway, beginning a 12-year run that would change her life forever. In 1995, the show introduced a new character, Mateo Santos, as Haley's love interest. Casting director Judy Wilson later recalled that when Kelly saw the headshot of actor Mark Consuelos for the first time, the atmosphere in the room instantly changed. ABC executives were uncertain about casting him, but he eventually won the role. Their chemistry on screen quickly became real off-screen. Within months, Kelly and Mark were dating. On May 1, 1996, after a simple night of pizza and wine, Mark proposed. Hours later, they flew to Las Vegas and secretly got married. For weeks, almost nobody knew including their families and even the writers creating the romance between their characters. But behind that love story was a moment of pain Kelly rarely discusses. In November 1994, while living in Manhattan and building her career, Kelly received a terrifying phone call in the middle of the night. Her mother told her that her sister Linda had been involved in a serious accident. Kelly rushed back to New Jersey without even changing out of her pajamas. During the 90-minute ride through the Lincoln Tunnel, she had no idea whether her sister would still be alive when she arrived. Linda survived, but the injuries from that night changed her life permanently. Years later, Kelly admitted that the experience forced her to understand something painful. Fame, awards, and success could never protect the people you love from tragedy. People close to Kelly say that whenever she talks about slowing down or walking away, it is about far more than television. The chair that made Kelly Ripa famous. By 2000, Kelly Ripa had spent 10 years on All My Children. She was 30, had appeared in nearly 1,800 episodes, and was loved by soap fans. But she was still known mainly inside that world. That changed when Kathy Lee Gifford left Live with Regis and Kathy Lee after 15 years. The show was one of America's biggest daytime programs, with about 5 million viewers per episode. A BC needed someone who could sit beside Regis Philbin, a television legend. The search lasted 9 months. Around 75 women tried out, including Lara Spencer, Cynthia Garrett, Cheryl Hines, Kim Alexis, and Patti LaBelle. None of them felt like the right fit. Then, on November 9, 2000, Kelly was invited to guest host for one episode. On paper, it made little sense. Regis was 69, Kelly was 30. But once the cameras started rolling, the chemistry was instant. She was fast, sharp, fearless, and completely unafraid to challenge him. A BC had finally found what it was looking for. On February 5, 2001, the show became Live with Regis and Kelly. Kelly's first official episode aired that same day. Over the next decade, the program grew into a massive success, reaching more than 200 markets in the United States and abroad. Kelly and Regis earned multiple Daytime Emmy nominations, and in 2012, the show won its first Emmy for Outstanding Talk Show. Her life changed just as quickly. By 2010, Kelly was reportedly earning about $20 million a year, making her one of the highest-paid women on American television. She and Mark Consuelos also built a major real estate portfolio, including a Soho loft sold for $20 million and a Manhattan townhouse purchased for $27 million. At the height of it all, Kelly seemed to have everything. But she had no idea the chair that made her famous would one day become the chair she could not easily leave. The secret of the chair that no viewer ever noticed. To viewers, Kelly Ripa's chair has always felt unchanged. Same seat, same angle, same morning routine for 25 years. But the truth is different. The chair has been replaced 4 times because of wear, set changes, and time. The one she uses now is the 5th. If you look closely at the right armrest, there is a small crescent-shaped scratch. It has been there since July 27, 2020, the morning Kelly returned to air after Regis Philbin's death. During her live tribute, a crew member said Kelly gripped the armrest so tightly that her fingernail cut into the leather. After the show, the art department offered to fix it. Kelly refused, asking them to leave it there as a reminder. 6 years later, the scratch is still there. And inside the studio, whenever Kelly talks about walking away, people quietly look at that chair and wonder what will happen to it. Sometimes, one small mark can carry more history than 1,000 episodes. When people walk out of your life, not everyone says goodbye. On November 18, 2011, Regis Philbin hosted Live for the final time after 28 years on the show. His farewell was emotional and respectful, but once he left, Kelly Ripa faced the most difficult chapter of her career. She already knew what burnout felt like. In 2003, while co-hosting Live, Kelly also starred in the ABC sitcom Hope and Faith, alongside Faith Ford, Ted McGinley, and a young Megan Fox. The series lasted 3 seasons, but the non-stop schedule exhausted her. Years later, Kelly admitted she never wanted to push herself that hard again. After Regis retired, ABC spent 9 months searching for a replacement before choosing former NFL star Michael Strahan. Live with Kelly and Michael launched in 2012 and became a major success. Then, in April 2016, everything changed. Kelly learned only minutes before the public announcement that Strahan was leaving for Good Morning America. She later described the situation as one of the most painful moments of her professional life. For the first time in 15 years, she missed several scheduled broadcasts in a row. When Kelly returned on April 26, 2016, she addressed the controversy directly on air in a speech many television insiders still consider one of the most controlled and honest moments in daytime TV history. 4 years later, on July 24, 2020, Regis Philbin died just before his 89th birthday. The tribute episode Kelly hosted days later became one of the most watched broadcasts of the pandemic era. But viewers never knew that shortly before his death, Regis had written Kelly a private handwritten letter. According to people close to the family, he sent it through a trusted assistant with instructions that Kelly should receive it without knowing what was inside. The letter arrived in August 2020. Kelly recognized Regis's handwriting immediately, but she could not bring herself to open it. So the envelope stayed untouched inside her dressing room drawer for 4 years. Meanwhile, television kept moving forward. Ryan Seacrest joined Live in 2017, and the show thrived for 6 successful years. When Ryan left in 2023 to focus on other projects, the replacement had been obvious all along. Mark Consuelos, Kelly's husband, had guest co-hosted the show for years and was already loved by viewers. On April 17, 2023, the program officially became Live with Kelly and Mark. But inside Kelly's dressing room, Regis's unopened letter still sat in the same drawer every single morning. Until the day Oprah Winfrey called. The phone call. Kelly almost didn't answer. By 2026, Live with Kelly and Mark had become the longest and most natural partnership of Kelly Ripa's career outside of the Regis era. Unlike previous co-hosts, Kelly and Mark were not pretending to be a couple on camera. They were living it in real life, and audiences connected deeply with that warmth and authenticity. The show remained a ratings powerhouse and a constant source of viral moments online. In 2024, Kelly and Mark won their first Daytime Emmy together. At the same time, Kelly began speaking differently about her future. Starting around 2023, she openly admitted she would not stay forever. Not because she was unhappy, and not because the show was struggling. In fact, the show was stronger than ever. But Kelly no longer viewed it as something built around one person. She saw it as an institution that should survive beyond her. A major turning point came in July 2025 during an episode of her podcast with Oprah Winfrey. Kelly asked how someone knows when it is finally time to walk away after decades in television. Oprah reportedly told her that moment had not arrived yet. She pointed to the rare chemistry between Kelly and Mark and reminded her how much comfort the show brought to viewers every morning. Oprah strongly encouraged her not to give up the platform too soon. Kelly understood why. Over the years, she had seen the show playing quietly in hospital rooms, chemotherapy wards, waiting areas, and nursing homes. For many Americans, Live was more than entertainment. It was part of daily life, familiar, comforting, and dependable during difficult moments. But Kelly still never promised she would stay forever. According to people close to her, everything changed the night after that conversation. Kelly reportedly returned to the studio alone after midnight. She sat in the dark dressing room and finally opened the handwritten letter Regis Philbin had sent her years earlier. No one knows the full contents, but one line reportedly stayed with her forever. Regis urged her not to remain in the chair so long that audiences would eventually forget the version of her they loved most. Kelly stayed in the studio until nearly 4 in the morning. Oprah had encouraged her to stay. Regis had quietly warned her not to stay too long. And for the first time in 25 years, Kelly realized nobody else could make that decision for her. Kelly Ripa had every reason to leave. By 2025 and 2026, Kelly Ripa's thoughts about leaving Live had become more personal than professional. Life around her was changing, and it changed the way she viewed time. Her father, Joseph Ripa, had retired in 2017 after decades in public service, and Kelly hinted in recent years that his health was declining. Her mother, Esther, remained a constant presence in her stories about family and childhood. Her sister Linda still lived with lasting pain from the devastating 1994 accident that changed their family forever. At the same time, Kelly's 3 children were fully grown. Michael was working in film production, Lola had launched her music career, and Joaquin was preparing for his stage debut after wrestling at the University of Michigan. For the first time in decades, Kelly no longer had children depending on her at home every day. Around this period, she also finished her memoir, Livewire, Long-Winded Short Stories. Released in 2022, the book became a major bestseller. But what stayed with readers most was the final chapter, titled The End. Kelly never directly announced plans to retire. Instead, she admitted she had begun seriously thinking about what a graceful exit might look like. For most of her life, she had built her career by constantly moving forward, always saying yes, always pushing harder. But entering her 50s, she started realizing that endless momentum does not always bring peace. Money was no longer part of the equation. Kelly reportedly earned around $20 million a year from Live, while Mark continued acting and producing through their company, Milojo. Combined with real estate, investments, book deals, and podcasts, their net worth was estimated around $200 million by late 2025. She no longer worked because she had to. Kelly had every reason to walk away, and every reason to stay. The real question was no longer whether she could leave. It was what kind of life she wanted after she did. The final night before America went silent. The night before that February 2026 broadcast, Kelly Ripa's townhouse on East 76th Street was completely quiet. Mark had gone to bed early for Broadway rehearsals. The kids were grown and living their own lives. For the first time in years, Kelly was alone with the decision. According to the story that later spread among people close to her, she did not sleep that night. She went to her third-floor study, where a black-and-white photo of Regis hung on the wall, and a framed picture of her sister Linda sat on the desk. In the drawer was Regis's letter, the one she had finally opened in 2025. Kelly took out a piece of paper and wrote that it was time to move on. Then she burned it. She wrote it again and burned it again. The third time, she typed the same message into her phone. At 3:47 in the morning, she sent it to one of the show's closest producers with no explanation. The producer later said he had to read it several times before believing it was real. The next morning, Kelly arrived at the studio at 8:30, just like always. She went through hair and makeup, smiled for the crew, and walked onto the set as if nothing had changed. When the lights came on, she opened the show with the same words her mother used to say when she came home from school. Then she sat in her 5th chair, her right hand resting over the small crescent-shaped scratch on the armrest. Midway through the show, without warning, Kelly looked into the camera and said she was ready to move on. The audience went silent. At first, they thought it was just a lead into a commercial break, but Kelly did not add anything else. She only smiled. And in that moment, America understood. It was not a line. It was goodbye. The question no outlet dared to ask. After the clip went viral, major outlets all asked the same question. Was Kelly Ripa really retiring, and when would it happen? But maybe that was never the real question. The real story was why she stayed so long. It was not the money. It was not the contract. It was not the fame. Kelly had already built the career, earned the awards, and secured the life most people only dream about. So what kept her there? Maybe it was the viewers watching from hospital rooms and waiting areas every morning. Maybe it was her mother, whose simple words had opened the show for 25 years. Maybe it was Mark, walking into the studio beside her. Maybe it was Regis, whose memory still lived in that chair. For now, Kelly is still there, still sitting in the fifth chair, still opening the show with the words that made the studio feel like home. The real question is not when she will leave. It is what America will remember when she finally does. Do you think Kelly should stay or go? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more untold stories from behind the spotlight.